Beautiful. All right, everybody. Happy Friday night. And while everyone's out partying, I'm talking IRS. Let's see. What I have here is a letter that I received from the good folks at the Alphabet Company around my taxes from 2021. Now, we've been talking about the filings that I've been getting, the letters, the correspondence that I've been getting from the IRS regarding this 2021 tax year. And we've pretty much got it all resolved. But I wanted to show you what happens. A lot of you have panic about not paying your quarterlies. That is the estimated taxes that you're supposed to pay so that you stay in compliance and, don't get theoretically what they say, the bad things and the bad fees, the bad penalties and interest. I want to show you how to get a loan from the IRS if you've incorporated. You can use the money that you get from the IRS to trade. I know, you're like, what? And what I'm saying is, as they say in Star Wars, true from a certain point of view. But it really is a loan. And the interest rate is pretty good and hasn't changed in about 30 years and likely won't change with all the interest rate hikes. So that's pretty good, right? Borrowing from the IRS at a reasonably fixed interest rate. So what am I talking about? In your companies, not if you're an LLC, but if you're a C Corp or an S Corp, you have to file quarterlies. If you're an independent contractor, you have to file quarterlies. But it don't work so well with independent contractors as a social slave. So incorporated wise, it's a good idea, to incorporate multi-member. We've talked about this. You guys are tired of hearing about it. So let's talk about the money. If you've done it right and you didn't file quarterlies, but it was on a year that you were, did I get this in here? Yeah. You were on a year where you owed, like you made a lot of money. You should have filed taxes every quarter and paid a check, written them a check or digital, whatever. You could be liable to penalties and fees. And what the IRS wants is them to get your money first. That's why when you're a W-2 slave, they take the money out of your check, so you don't get it. So they get it first, right? That's the way the government likes it. When they print the money, it's before it makes the inflation happen, so they get the maximum buying power. When they get your taxes, they take it out before you even get to use it, so they get the maximum buying power before inflation. It just goes on and on. But we don't want that. We are not social slaves. We are shepherds in sheep's clothing. So how do we get around this? How do we get a loan from the IRS? Well, theoretically, the money that you owe in taxes is the IRS's money, and they have the right to collect it at any time. And in fact, if you're a W-2 slave, you don't even see it. You don't ever get it. It never goes to your bank account. It goes out to them. It never can get paid to you, just attributed to you. And then you got to try to get it back from them later. So they want it now. Now they give companies a break, as they give all companies breaks in all things, and they'll allow you to keep your money that you owe them, the taxes, for up to a quarter. So you make money in January, you make money in February, you make money in March, and they actually give you a little grace period to April to file your quarterlies for quarter one, and then you pay the tax, the estimated tax that you would have paid as if it had been all year, but they want that money first. Now, again, they'll let you have a grace period of a quarter, and then the quarter two, you do the same, 3 and 4, and then it starts all over again. You file your full taxes and pay the balance of whatever might be left, or that you might have over thought about. You paid too much, so you get it back. I mean, it's a pretty good system, but I don't like it, and I don't want to give the IRS my money first, their money first. I want to keep their money. Well, to do that, there's some penalties and fees. Okay, right. So let's talk about those penalties and fees, and if they might be worth paying if you knew that I could do something with that money to beat the penalties, fees, and interests. All right. Whenever we deal with the IRS and there is a potential that you owe them, like they're demanding money and they're probably right, as I've said before, the thing to always do is post a bond. What does that mean? There's a lot of ways to post a bond. The easiest way is to send them some money, not the whole amount. Send them some money on your first communication. You know, if it's a like in my case, they want about 550. They wanted like 5 grand. So post them some money, or I think it was like 53 something, whatever. I sent them $1,000, and you can see it here, March 30th. When we started this thing, it was like whatever it was, January or something. So, or no, maybe it was February. I sent them on March 30th, knowing this was going to take some time, but also wanted to be in commercial honor. I sent them a portion of what I kind of knew I was going to owe them as a bond. What is that? Why did we say bond and not just a payment? Well, because if they're wrong, they have to return it to me. This is a bond showing them that I'm negotiating with them in good faith. I'm not trying to get out of anything. I'm trying to, here's a bond for you. And that will force them to be negotiating in good faith, knowing that I'm not trying to escape or anything. Here's a little bit of money. We'll call it a bond for us to solve this under the administrative remedy in the Uniform Commercial Code. Sounds good. Now, they don't say that. They call it a payment. But in my letter to them, I said, here's a bond. Here is an initial bond. So I sent them $1,000. They naturally record it because they're the accountants with guns. They've got guns. They shouldn't have them, but they do sometimes. But they're accountants, so they got it. There it is. No lie. Failure to pay proper estimated tax. Now, I should have estimated tax because I made a lot of money last year. The company did, not me. The company did. So what do? They slapped me with $100 for the whole year. That's 4 estimated tax payments missed because I ain't giving them my money unless I have to. Now, they say I have to, and if I don't, there's penalties. Now, personally, you could suggest, well, what if I don't file my taxes at all for 10 years? Well, there's penalties for that too. They're pretty stiff. Not such a good idea. But quarterlies, check it out. $100. We charged a penalty for not estimating your tax correctly. I didn't estimate it at all. I didn't send them a single one. This penalty applies when the corporation owes $500 or more in tax, and the total payments made on time are less than the required amounts. So I paid them $0. This was a bond, not a payment. The procedure for reasonable cause doesn't apply to corporate estimated tax penalties. In other words, you don't got no good reason, and we don't care. You can't have a good reason for not paying your estimated tax payments. If you're a social slave, oh yeah, my foot was broken in the trough. I couldn't go over to get sheared. Okay, estimated thing. Okay, fine. We'll give you a break. But not here. For more information, blah, blah, blah. Read some more of our psychologically tuned things. Then, failure to pay, unpaid amount. Yeah, they wanted $5,100 and a quarter or something like this. We assessed a 0.5% monthly penalty for not paying the tax you owe by the due date. 0.5% a month. How much is that APR? How much is that APR? Put that in the chat box. Yeah, right. 6%. 6%. Well, that ain't bad. 6%? That ain't bad. We base the monthly penalty for paying late on the net unpaid tax due at the beginning of each penalty month following the payment due date for that tax. The penalty, blah, blah, blah. The penalty can't be more than 25% in total. The due date for the payment, anyway, they lay it all out. Now, if you're doing more than 100 grand in unpaid taxes, you probably need to up your bond. Right? Up your bond a bit. Like 10-fold, 100-fold. Because a $1,000 bond on $1 million issue is not that much of a bond. We call that a drop in the bucket. If we issue, now here's that great psychology that they employ in all this to scare everybody. If we issue a notice of intent to levy, this is so good, you guys. If we intend, not a notice of levy, that says probably hard to see. Notice of intent. We might. If we might, well then you'd. And it's very unusual for them to put angry language to a corporation, and this is kind of not that angry. If we issue a notice of intent to levy and you don't pay the balance due within 10 days of the date of that notice, and by the way, when do they send those notices out? The Thursday before. You'll probably get them. They say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You get it Monday, react Tuesday. You already burned 6 days. Boy, you better pay that thing and overnight it. If they do send an intent to levy. Now, by the way, an intent to levy doesn't mean they're going to levy. They have to send another letter that says we're going to levy. Fine. The penalty for paying late increases to 1% a month. If they send an intent to levy, it goes to 12% a year? Oh no! For sole proprietors who filed on time, the penalty decreases to 1/4% per month, while an approved installment agreement with the IRS is in effect. Payment of that tax. Notice the sole proprietors, the only place that I know that sole proprietors get a benefit over multi-members is if you don't pay your bill. Why? Because they know disregarded entities are really just sheep in sheep's clothing. They're really just social slaves. We'll give them a break. I broke my paw at the food trough. I couldn't. They know that. You're just a sheep. If you're silly enough to have an LLC with just you in it, we'll give them the same kind of breaks we give the normal sheep. And then we're going to shear them whenever we want. So that's another indicator that sole proprietor LLC, not that great. Second page. Removal for reduction of pay. We understand the circumstances such as serious injury, a family member's death, a loss of financial records, blah, 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 blah. If you're a sole proprietorship, you get that. If you're multi-member, no. Removal of penalties due to erroneous written advice. So if we gave you bad advice, we'll fix it. Sorry. So sorry. Here's the kicker. What have I lost so far? $100. $100. Interest charges. Here we go. A whopping $72.85. Look at this, though. July 1st through March 31st, they only charged me 3%. The table shows the rates used to calculate the interest on your unpaid amount due. We are required by law to charge interest. You like how they say we're required by law? Do you happen to know what law that is? It's an interesting one. It's in the Constitution, believe it or not. It's not in the Internal Revenue Code. It's there, but the original law is in a ratified amendment of the Constitution. Talk about bending the Constitution out of context. Let's see. Generally, we calculate interest from the due date of your return, regardless of your extension. So if you owe money and you got an extension, they're still going to charge you from back then, by the way. Don't think your accountant says, oh, no, you don't get charged until. That's a lie. They do. Until you pay the amount you owe in full, including accrued interest and all penalty charges. Interest on some penalties, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. So for the first year and a half, they only charged me 3%. That's pretty good. Because the first time that I was due was that month in 2020. After quarter two, they didn't get it quarterly. Well, I'm sure he'll respond. 3%. I mean, that's a long ass time, y'all. Look at that. From July 2020 to March 2022. That's a year and a half. 18 months at 3%. That's a great loan. Come on. And then the next 3 months, 4%. And then starting in July, it was 5%. And then ultimately, it'll ramp up to 6%. Okay? You guys see this? What have I done here? What's the amount? Well, the amount, they said, was $41.25. I already added a $1,000 bond, so it was $51.25 that they said I should have paid them quarterlies for. How much have I paid to not give them money for a year and a half? 103.12. No, sorry, over here. The $100 tax plus interest on the $100. $72.85 in interest overall. So really, we're talking about call it $175. Total failure to pay. Total failure to pay. Yeah, that's it. Failure to pay. Total failure to pay. Right. Is that a good loan? From really March 1st, 2020. March 1st, 2020 until, well, it's September 2022. 1 year and 3, just round figures, year and a half, 18 months. Now I put $1,000 in. So it's $1,000 plus $175. Right? Now that's $1,000 that's not interest. I just paid the principal down. So you could have amortized that if you were crazy over the months. But really, the cost to me, so I got to pay this anyway. I'm ready to pay the loan off. But the cost to me in interest over 18 months is $175. How much is that per month? I'm sorry, I'm going to pull up a calculator. You can't see it. So 175 divided by 18, that's $9.72 a month times 12. It's $116 per year divided by 5125. Folks, that's 2.25% a year. Is that a good loan? And you're like, well, that's not a loan. It is, because it's their money. Are they mad? No. Do you see them threatening me? No. Well, yeah, but they said if they issue an intent, if they do, I'll handle it. Did they? No. Are they? No. Why? I already paid. I made a bond. Now, if I hadn't put anything in here, they might get a little more uppity with me. But I already sent them some money. I'm going to send them some more. They're going to charge me a little more, but I'm going to hold on to some cash. It's a good loan. You guys see this? Now, am I telling you to not pay the IRS? Nope. You better pay them, and you better believe I'm going to pay them. Don't you try to get out of anything. But the Internal Revenue Code exists, honestly, when you know how it works, to benefit you. If you can get past the rhetoric and the psychological bending that they've been doing in the media coverage. Oh, the only way they could get Al Capone was the IRS. Come on. Al Capone was a shill. He was gotten before they ever got anybody knew who Al Capone was. They used it to help make people pay tax at the time where people were like, I don't think I have to pay tax. Isn't World War I over? Yes. Isn't the state of emergency over? Yes. You don't have to pay tax anymore. Oh, but they're that powerful. They got Al Capone. Same thing. They might take my money. Listen, anybody take your money. The bank could take your money. You guys know PayPal, if you violate Facebook standards or eBay standards, PayPal will lock up your money of any amount for 18 months and not give it back to you, no matter the amount that's in there, as a fee for them having to deal with you. That ain't constitutional. I'd rather deal with the IRS, wouldn't you? Look at all this instruction. Look at all this language they put in here to be in commercial honor. It's pretty good. And it's a heck of a loan. So what am I saying? Mark, are you really saying stop paying your quarterlies? Absolutely. If you know that, you know what, I can take the money that I would have paid them in quarterlies and do better than 6%, well, in this case, 2.25% a year. If you can't do better than 2.25% per year, you better just pay them. Just pay them the money. They do better with it than you. I know that sounds harsh, but I'm just saying. If you can't do 5% a year, if you can't dump it in USDT on a DeFi exchange and make 5% a year, just give it to the IRS. All right, y'all. That's what I had for you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.